Good morning, friends. Max Mogren reporting live for you from beautiful Alpine, Wyoming. This is Wake Up Wyoming for October 11th, 2017. Thank you so much for tuning in. A lot of news today, a lot to cover, so we'll get right into it. First and foremost, our heart goes out to the whole climate community, the friends and families, everyone affected by the tragic deaths of Inge Perkins and Hayden Kelly. Two world-renowned climbers. She died in an avalanche recently, and he killed himself in the wake of that tragedy. So a dual tragedy there affecting the climbing community here in Wyoming, Montana, Colorado, and all over. So heart goes out to everybody on that. Kind of offensively, the mainstream media finally picked up the story today, and every single article, the headline, CBS News reporting, renowned climber kills himself after girlfriend dies in avalanche. Washington Post reporting an avalanche killed his girlfriend, then world-class climber took his own life. And the Daily Mirror, world-renowned climber kills himself after watching girlfriend die in avalanche. The situation's tragic, but equally tragic, well, not equally tragic, but tragic is as well is the mainstream media's portrayal as a woman climber as the girlfriend of a male climber. Both of these climbers were world-renowned, top-tier athletes. Both of them climbed 514. Both of them had multiple sponsors. And, you know, Inge Perkins, 23 years old, and Hayden Kelly, 27 years old. They were both, you know, well-established in the climbing community, both world-renowned climbers in their own right. So that's all I really have to say on that. I got on more hopeful notes, I got a message from a friend here that I want to read out loud to y'all as we get going today. Something you said really hit me. I am one of those people that feels hopeless. I teach my son to be kind and compassionate. I'm trying to give him a good education, and everything I do is to give him a good life. Beyond that, I don't know how else to help the world be a better place. Today he told me he just wanted to grow up and stop war. I hope all the kids want this. Wouldn't that be amazing if they all decided that as one generation we should end war? So beautiful message there. You know, a kid, 10-year-old kid knows what's going on just as much as everybody else. And the absurdity, the utter stupidity of war. Brian Peterson chiming in. Wow, Brian, I'm really sorry for your loss, man. That's heavy news. If you need someone to talk to about it, Brian, please hit me up. Same with anybody out there struggling. If you need someone to talk to, I got time, I got ears. And, you know, I appreciate you tuning in, and I appreciate all your contributions. Anybody needs someone to talk to, hit me up. I got your back. Environmental news here in Wydaho. I got the head cold going. Not surprisingly, about 3 days ago, the spray started up again here in Wydaho. Looking out the window right now, it's supposed to be a beautiful blue sky day, but we got that nasty milky haze associated with geoengineering programs or the spraying of other chemicals for various reasons. I was supposed to go climbing with a friend today, and she had to cancel because she's sick. My other roommate, Russ, is sick. And I'm curious to know, you know, have any of you experienced that where in the wake of or in the midst of heavy spray days, you start getting the nasal congestion, you know, the so-called chemtrail crud, the shivers, the shakes, the fevers, all that. I think there's something to it. So I just want to make note of that. If you're in the Wydaho region or wherever you are, you know, on heavy spray days, it might not be the best idea to go out and spend a lot of time running around outside, which is unfortunate. What else do we got going on here? Getting into the news. Once again, as usual, we're looking at the Jackson Hole Daily, the paper servicing the wealthiest county per capita in the United States of America. Front page headlines today about the Keystone Pipeline. Attorneys for the Trump administration say a federal judge has no authority to second-guess a presidential permit for the Keystone XL oil pipeline as they seek to stop a lawsuit that would block the project. Justice Department attorneys are due in U.S. District Court in Montana today to defend the administration's March approval of the 1,179-mile pipeline, a lightning rod in the debate over what to do about climate change. As an important aside, I wish the climate change debate would address geoengineering, weather warfare, and all weather modification. The Trans-Canada proposal would transport Canadian crude oil through Montana and South Dakota to Nebraska, where it would connect with the existing system of lines to carry oil to the Gulf Coast refineries. The Obama administration rejected the project before the proposal was revived in March by President Trump, who said it would create jobs and lead to greater energy independence. Okay? Yeah, I'm sure investing in these antiquated fossil fuel technologies would create some jobs, although pipelines create a lot fewer jobs than shipping oil by railway. Additionally, building solar panels and stuff sure seems to be creating a lot of jobs in places like China, Germany. It'd be nice if we could get our heads out of our asses here in the United States and invest in some clean and efficient and modern energy technologies. Once again, all the renewables can't compete with Tesla tech that was developed over 100 years ago. It's important that we all bear that in mind while debunking the endless lies of the mainstream media. Good article there from Writers on the Range by Jonathan Thompson. It now becomes clear that King Coal was all a big lie. King Coal wears no clothes, my friends. Here in Wyoming, in the largest coal-producing state, I just drove past the world's largest open pit coal mine the other day. It's a sad thing to see. It'd be cool. Wouldn't it be nice if we were investing in wind and solar here in Wyoming, creating jobs that way instead of digging up the earth and burning it, creating all this pollution? Now it's becoming clear that King Coal was all a big lie. By the middle of the 20th century, dirty, inconvenient, expensive coal was all but obsolete. As steam locomotives were driven to extinction by diesel, homeowners ditched their coal furnaces and cook stoves, and hydroelectric power provided most of the nation's electricity. Now, dams aren't necessarily a good thing either, but they're a lot cleaner than coal, that's for sure. Facing an existential crisis, coal industry executives knew they could not compete based on the merits of their fuel. Instead, they set out to imbue it with symbolism and mythology. Coal is not just coal, the lobbyists argued. It's abundant, it's reliable, and it deserves a seat of honor in the pantheon of American culture, alongside cowboys, sacrosanct guns, and yes, freedom. Most of all, coal was equated with honest jobs for hardworking miners. Okay, as a little aside there, how many people really enjoy mining coal? Probably not very many. Politicians deployed the mythology for their campaigns and policymaking. Some states required public institutions to heat with coal. And in 1952, the federal government released a blueprint for a Western electrical grid that would result in 3,000% more coal burning, a dream that was realized and then some by the 1980s. As the blatant act of market interference, Congress passed a law in 1978 that effectively required power plants to burn coal and nothing else. Coal strengthened its stranglehold. Sorry, the camera's on the fritz there. Let me fix that. So annoying. Okay, there we go. Coal strengthened its stranglehold on the grid. Today, that grip is finally loosening. Natural gas prices have plummeted in the past decade, putting coal at an economic disadvantage. Several giant coal plants in the West are slated for retirement in the not-too-distant future, and the plants that are still running are putting out less and less power. The myths that coal is necessary for grid reliability and that it's the cheapest fuel available are fading. Can't stress that enough. Coal is not the cheapest fuel. Yet the most powerful symbolism around coal perpetuates the lingering, erroneous notion that it provides jobs that other industries do not. In fact, for every job lost in the coal industry, at least one has risen to take its place in some other sector of electricity generation. The nation's coal mines and coal-powered plants employ about 160,000 people, according to government figures, while the wind and solar industry provides more than 475,000 jobs. So three plus times more jobs in wind and solar. Coal jobs carry far more symbolic and political theft, however, since no one has yet figured out how to write a good country western song about solar panel installation. Anybody out there want to write that song? I think we need it. When former President Barack Obama was castigated for waging a so-called war on coal, he was not accused of trying to mitigate a catastrophic global habitat, but of directly attacking coal miners who have come to symbolize rural white American culture. 85% of coal miners are white men. When President Trump demonstrates that he supports coal by rolling back regulations, he's banking on rural nostalgia and pushing back against Obama. The regulation rollback is good for coal's bottom line, yet instead of using the savings to hire more workers, companies have poured the extra revenue into executive pay, which on average is 4 times that of a miner toiling underground. And among the rescinded rules are those aimed at protecting miner health and safety during a time when coal mining fatalities are on the rise again. Trump is able to get away with all of this because he's got the myth behind him. As for the land, the air, the water, and the people who live near and work in the coal plants and mines, they get to pay the price for coal, guns, and freedom. So, King Coal, Jonathan Thompson, pretty darn good article there. Once again, we can't stress it enough here at Wake Up Wyoming that there are suppressed energy technologies that rendered all fossil fuels obsolete over 100 years ago. The visionary work of Nikola Tesla. In related news, anybody out there familiar with the band, not a very good band, not necessarily like a true punk band, but the band Blink-182 that was big in the 90s, early 2000s? Well, a former member of that band, Tom DeLonge, has started a group called To the Stars. It's a disclosure project where today, apparently, they are doing him, and I was amazed at this team of insiders from the intelligence community he's gotten on board, who are releasing information today about basically anti-gravity technology. Like, you know, when people see a UFO that just seems to hover, obviously that thing's not running on fossil fuels, right? So this Tom DeLonge thing could be pretty interesting. You might want to check that out, but haven't had a chance yet. As a little aside, it was kind of funny this morning. I meant to start this video a little more than an hour ago, and I got the computer all loaded up with all my links. I've got, 15 stories to share with you today, and I can get every website on the planet to open except Facebook, right? Every website. The internet was working fine. Same thing on this smartphone. I could get everything to open except Facebook. Then the Facebook on the phone started working, so I tried to do a live video showcasing the problem I was having getting Facebook to load, and then magically Facebook started working again. So it was just kind of interesting. Dory Blackney said that he or she, I can't tell based on your profile picture there, Dory, or your name necessarily, that you watched the show. Was that any good? I'm curious. Somebody else asked, Jerry Ann Durbin Fairman asked, curious to know what newspaper you read from. Jerry Ann, every day I take a look at the Jackson Hole Daily because it's actually, as far as newspapers go, it's pretty good. And it also services the wealthiest county per capita in North America. I don't live in Jackson Hole. I live in Star Valley, about 35 miles south of there. Much more down-to-earth community. But I get the paper from Jackson Hole. And like I said, as far as newspapers go, it's pretty good. It gives a decent foundation. Man, this camera is on the fritz. There we go. It gives a pretty good idea, a good jumping-off point to dig deeper, so to speak. So that's why I read this every day and try to convey some of the information to you. A little media literacy, a little analysis, critical analysis of the mainstream media. But also, since it's in a resort community, we get stories about places like Vail. The ski industry, really funny. It's kind of going through an existential crisis lately where a lot of people like myself have given up on ski resorts entirely because they're so damn expensive. And we go backcountry skiing again where the snow's a lot better. It's a lot better exercise. And if you want a beer at the end of the day, it's not going to cost you $8, right? You're not going to have to spend a $140 plane or lift ticket to go ski some powder. Interestingly, ski areas, at least some of them, remain greatly profitable. How else to explain the expansion by Vail Resorts and now the creation of the new but still unnamed company that might as well be called Unveil, a combination of KSL Capital Partners and the Crown family of Aspen and Chicago. This is despite the fact that Vail Resorts last year had 5.4% fewer visitors at its U.S. resorts. But it grew its visits by 20% overall, obviously a reflection of Vail's acquisition of Whistler Blackcomb up in Canada just before the start of the season. Vail had 12 million visitors altogether, or about what used to be the average for all of Colorado, For those that don't know, Vail has basically taken over a lot of the ski resorts in North America. You know, as we see power consolidating in the hands of a few. There's no exception in the ski industry. And what happens? Well, prices go up, quality goes down. But then consider this statement from Park City. Skiing is not a growing sport, said Jim Powell, Vice President of Marketing at the Park City Chamber of Commerce. The reason is simple. Baby boomers are aging out, and millennials simply do not ski or snowboard as much as their parents did and do. Powell said it takes about 2 millennials to replace every baby boomer who hangs up his or her skis. Adults between the ages of 20 to 36 tend to ski less and don't spend as much money when they do. Here's a little secret for you, ski industry. If you want to keep it pertinent, if you want to attract millennials, you're going to have to drop your prices because the average millennial is broke. The average millennial doesn't have any money. I got a couple of headlines here to prove it for you fine folks. Oh, gosh.
There are so many crowds of people.
So obnoxious how these mainstream sites will just start spewing video at you, isn't it? Okay, from CNBC, Americans are more terrified of student debt than North Korea's Kim Jong-un. And who's got student debt? Well, that's the millennials. Americans fear student debt more than North Korea's Kim Jong-un, according to Millennial Personal Finance. More than 56% of Americans think college debt poses a bigger threat to the U.S. than the North Korean leader, based on a survey of Americans aged 18 and older taken in September. Okay, student debt, real serious problem for the youth, for everybody who's trying to get educated. If so many people are finding that they can't make a decent living working, jobs that otherwise would have been good, and a lot of my friends are going back to school specifically to become nurses. Why? Because healthcare is booming in this country. Perhaps because we're all being poisoned. Back on topic here, 5 charts highlighting the epic housing crisis for millennials. 1/3 of young adults living at home with parents. This is coming from My Budget 360. In 1980, about 8% of folks the age 25 to 34 lived at home. Now it is up to approximately 34%, okay? Real rents are rising at a much faster pace than household income. So one underlying reason why we're seeing this trend is that young adults are simply making less money and their dollars are not going as far in the rental market. Inflation is a very real thing. The above chart highlights this dynamic reality. What we see here in this chart, based on from 1960 to 2017, median household income has gone up 120% or 20%, while median rents have gone up 60%. Obviously, that's adjusted for the dollar losing its value. Now, some of you are thinking if the market would self-correct in these situations, that'd be a nice thing. Well, it actually is. Young adults are living at home. Housing prices at all-time record highs. We got more empty houses, bank-owned houses in this country than homeless people. But rent keeps rising because inflation is real, and they're disguising it within the housing markets. Naturally, people who own houses, people who could afford to buy houses, aren't going to complain about inflation in the housing prices because they're making money, right? If the cost or if the value of your home goes up and the amount you can charge to rent it out goes up, the percentage of Americans that have been able to afford to buy homes in the past, they're happy with it, whereas it hits everybody else right in the wallet. So ski resorts want to know how to stay pertinent, stay profitable. You might want to lower your prices. I know when I moved out here to Jackson Hole, a lift ticket cost about $68. Now it's over $140. So that's a little bit of inflation there. We're going to get into Harvey Weinstein pretty quick. Pretty funny little political cartoon about Weinstein taking a knee. He's one of many creepy, pederast jerks in Hollywood. It seems like on both coasts, whether in D.C. or Hollywood or New York City, there's a lot of really perverted people in high, in high levels of power. Back to the millennial thing, we got a comment from Jason Crozes. He says, today's companies want employees to do more with less. We are overworked and underpaid. No doubt. And Jason Eisenhart chiming in, I saw an article about millennials using their parents' home equity to buy their own homes, right? I mean, it's a wild world. Naturally, Wyoming congressional delegates are upset about they're happy about it, They're happy that Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Scott Pruitt is trying to scrap the initiative limiting carbon emissions from coal-fired power plants. In more positive news, that cop down in Salt Lake City, Utah, who was whomping on a nurse because she wouldn't give him a blood draw without a warrant, has been fired. So that's a little bit of positivity there in the world. Moving on to the tragic wildfires in California. If you haven't been following that story, really sad. I've got a couple close friends in Sonoma County. Sonoma County is not the only one affected. I think it's 8 counties in California, and it's a really serious issue out there. The death toll in NorCal fires climbs to 15, more than 150 people missing as looters ransack homes. That headline from Zero Hedge. Our dear friend Tyler Durden put that out on October 10th. Interestingly here, this devastation in California article in the Jackson Hole Daily, at least 100 people were injured during the blazes that started Sunday night. Nearly 200 people were reported missing in Sonoma County alone. Mind you, these fires are raking across several counties. Zero Hedge telling us 150 people missing. The Jackson Hole Daily telling us 200 people in Sonoma County alone. The death toll from the fast-moving wildfires that have raced across 8 counties in Northern California since Sunday has risen to 15, according to the Washington Post. And state officials say the toll is likely to rise as the fire's rapid spread took some people by surprise. But in one hopeful sign, the dry winds that have helped spread the flames have slowed, granting firefighters a much-needed reprieve. So our heart goes out to everybody in California, Arrow, Tacoma, all the rest of my friends up there. Stay strong. I was living in that area helping Michael C. Rupert build his organic doomstead back in the day, and now a lot of that stuff is burning. It's really sad. On a similar vein, Puerto Rico, still in shambles. There's still 85% of the folks there are still without power. Bloomberg reporting yesterday, most of Puerto Rico remains dark nearly 3 weeks after the hurricane. It's been almost 3 weeks since Hurricane Maria slammed into Puerto Rico, and most of the island is still without electricity. The U.S. Department of Energy said Monday that 85% of customers lack power. Some portions of feeder lines have been restored, and about 30% of the island substations are back online, the agency said. It's important to note, the storm didn't blow away all the equipment. It didn't take down every power line in Puerto Rico. The bigger problem here is that Puerto Rico is broke, and they're not getting near enough support from the federal government. Interestingly, I think you all know it as well, we live in the era of weather warfare. It's rather disturbing that these record-setting hurricanes, after a 12-year hurricane drought where no major hurricanes made landfall in the United States, this year we're getting hammered. And, it's rough. Same thing in California. The technology exists to slow winds down. The technology has existed for a long time to manipulate the weather. There are all sorts of people doing it openly all over the world, and arguably the military-industrial complex is doing it covertly as a weapon. Back to Puerto Rico. For many Puerto Rico residents, it's time to leave the island, says CNBC, okay? Laying it out there, they're talking about all the people waiting at the airport with one-way tickets. Officials have been preparing for a wave of people leaving the territory for the mainland U.S. Governor of Florida, Rick Scott, has urged his state to begin preparing for an influx of people from Puerto Rico, as well as for the other assistance they need to settle in his state. Puerto Rico Governor Ricardo Rossello worries about a mass exodus. He knows people are fleeing from the post-Maria landscape, where they are suffering due to crippled infrastructure and a day-to-day struggle to access essentials such as food, water, and medicine. Interesting video came out yesterday where it was these 4 veterans who had volunteered to go to Puerto Rico and help out. And they said that the local officials in the area where they were, in a remote mountainous region of Puerto Rico, the local officials were doing everything they could to take care of their constituents, which seems pretty reasonable. But they weren't getting near enough aid, and these soldiers were only able to distribute a couple bottles of water and 1 small meal per family per day. So if you got a family of 5 people in this one region of Puerto Rico, these soldiers trying to help out were only able to bring them not near enough food, is the bottom line. So our hearts go out to the people of Puerto Rico. Let's keep doing what we can to help out there. Governor Ricardo Rossello continues, "We can't do anything about that in the short term," he told reporters, talking about the day-to-day struggle to access essentials such as food, water, and medicine. Yet he warned the exodus could unfold over the longer term unless the island gets a federal aid package commensurate with the damage that can spur recovery. It will be in the millions, Rossello said, the millions at minimum. Puerto Rico is home to 3.4 million people. Oh, millions meaning the number of people leaving Puerto Rico, excuse me. 3.4 million American citizens living in Puerto Rico. Wow. And, you know, they're more than welcome to come here and try to rebuild their lives. But as an interesting aside, what's going to happen? You know, the total population of the U.S. is about 350 million. Let's say 2 million Puerto Ricans are forced to leave their homes because they have no livelihood, they have no electricity, they can't afford food and water, forced to leave this beautiful island that they've called home. Well, if we have an influx of about 2 million people into the U.S., that's going to definitely shake up the employment situation. You know, odds are, you got more people looking for jobs, more desperate people looking for jobs, wages go down, right? Trump was all opposed to Mexicans coming here, but maybe they're just going to replace the Mexicans with Puerto Ricans. I don't know. On a similar vein, just 1 in 5 Americans, Jackson Hole Daily reporting, just 1 in 5 Americans wants to deport young immigrants brought to the U.S. as children who now live here illegally. The issue is a focus of a politically fraught debate between the White House and Congress. Okay, it's important to stress that, you know, this country was founded by immigrants, right? The original natives here didn't invite the Europeans to come here. The slaves who were brought over here were immigrants. And, I mean, if I misspoke there, obviously they were brought immigrants if wages are low or if it's hard to find a high-paying job. It's not the fault of the people who are just struggling to get by or to get a little toehold here in the U.S., right? Poor people are not the problem. It's the rich people who have set up this world to be kind of a shitty place to live for the majority of people. Moving on to the situation in Spain, the leader of Catalan backs but delays the independence. Catalan separatists on Tuesday signed what they call a declaration of independence from Spain to cheers and applause at a regional parliament. Catalonia's president said he would delay implementing it for several weeks to give dialogue a chance. Spain, however, called an emergency cabinet meeting for this morning and gave little indication it is willing to talk. In his highly anticipated speech, regional president Charles Puigdemont said the landslide victory in a disputed October 1st referendum gave his government the grounds to implement its long-held desire to break century-old ties with Spain. The central government in Madrid responded that it did not accept the Declaration of Independence by the separatists and did not consider the referendum or its results to be valid. Okay, that's why the Spanish police were in there cracking heads and preventing people, physically, violently preventing people from voting in this referendum. One of Spain's options at today's meeting could be to set about applying Article 155 of the Constitution, which allows the central government to take some or total control of any of its 17 regions that don't comply with their legal obligations. This would begin with a cabinet meeting and a warning to the regional government to fall into line. Then the Senate could be called to approve the measure. Also, Puigdemont could be called in for questioning in court and possibly arrested. Some 2.3 million Catalans, 43% of the electorate, voted in the referendum. Regional authorities said 90% were in favor of independence. Okay? Of course. Yeah. So, it's important to note the globalists, there's kind of this push, I don't want to sound too much like Alex Jones, but there's this push to consolidate power. There's this push for a one world government. Arguably the whole climate change thing is designed to implement a one world government uniting all of humanity against the common enemy of bad weather. But at the same time, they never mention the fact that they're playing God with the weather. Another state that's out of line with the globalist plans is North Korea. South Korean lawmaker warns that North may have hacked their war plans. These war plans include plans to assassinate Kim Jong-un. Okay? A South Korean lawmaker said Tuesday that North Korean hackers may have stolen highly classified military documents that include U.S. South Korean wartime decapitation strike plans against the North, according to South Korean media reports. If confirmed, such a hack would be a major blow for South Korea at a time when its relations with the North are at a low point. The South has taken the increasingly aggressive stance toward the North's belligerence. See how the terminology is used there? The North is belligerent. The South is just taking an aggressive stance. That's how the media works, to spin things just with the words they choose. The North belligerence amid back and forth threats of war between North Korea and U.S. President Trump. Among the classified plans allegedly stolen from South Korea were blueprints for targeted attacks by Seoul and Washington to eliminate North Korean leader Kim Jong-un if a crisis breaks out or appears imminent. Kim is the third generation of his family to rule North Korea. Notice how they don't use the word assassinate in the mainstream media. No, they're just going to eliminate him. They're just going to eliminate him. It doesn't sound near as bad as murder or assassinate. In other news out of the Koreas, South Korea's new blackout bomb could paralyze the North's power grid. Again, coming from Zero Hedge, our dear friend Tyler Durden. U.S. and South Korean officials are nervously watching to see if North Korea follows through with its threats to carry out another nuclear test or to fire a rumored long-range missile capable of accurately striking the west coast of the U.S. Blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on. But long story short, the weapon is a graphite bomb, otherwise known as a blackout bomb, which South Korean officials say will be capable of shutting down North Korea's entire power grid. Okay? So, yeah. Whatever. North Korea, again, if you're scared of getting nuked by North Korea, I think you need something else to worry about. North Korea is not going to nuke the U.S. or anybody for that matter anytime soon. Business, once again, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is at record all-time highs. Benchmark U.S. crude added $1.34 or 2.7%. So pretty big climb there. Gold climbed $8.80. Silver up 24 cents. Copper up 3 cents. But kind of quiet days in the markets. If you don't know already, watch the movie. Or read the book The Creature from Jekyll Island. Watch the movie The Secret of Oz. And realize that the financial markets are totally rigged. Heartbreaking. It's kind of frustrating. Kind of annoying. But in other financial news, according to the outgoing German finance minister, a global financial crisis looms as new bubbles begin to emerge. Schäuble, who is poised to become Speaker of the Bundestag in Germany's new government, warned that new bubbles could soon emerge after central banks pumped trillions of dollars into financial markets. Okay, that's just what I was talking about. The market's rigged. Central banks printing money, creating something out of nothing, driving inflation, decreasing the purchasing power of the average working class person's wages, while simultaneously enriching themselves and everybody else who plays in the silly little stock market game. Schäuble has long been the most pro-European politician in Chancellor Angela Merkel's cabinet and was a key influence to the continent's policy response to the Eurozone debt crisis. This headline from CNBC. So yeah, in real world news, you know, we're told the economy's doing great because the stock market's at all-time record highs, but not necessarily. One little example is Sears is closing all of its stores in Canada and will lay off 12,000 employees. So it's just the way it is. Sears Canada announces going out of business Tuesday, resulting in the closing of 130 stores and the loss of more than 12,000 jobs. So there's some real economic news. In other important financial news, Burger King. Burger King is adding spicy nuggets to its menu and firing up a rival with burger chain Wendy's, which pulled the peppery snack from most of its restaurants earlier this year. Thanks, Jackson Hole Daily. We all needed to know that, especially given that there isn't even a Burger King or a Wendy's in Jackson Hole. But there you see, you know, it's funny, USA Today is the worst at this, where they'll just advertising, you know, just putting the names of these shitty fast food restaurants in the newspaper and making it like a big deal that they are releasing spicy chicken nuggets. Is a form of advertising. Again, USA Today, if you want to see a prime example of the news or of advertising masquerading as news, just read a typical USA Today. It's sad. In other interesting news, hail, frost, and droughts have hit Europe's grape harvest hard, making it the smallest in 36 years. The quality of wines, though, is expected to be excellent. So that's good to know. You know, who knows what's going to happen with wine markets? These wildfires in California have burned down several wineries, and you know that's where the majority of the wine that's produced by the United States comes from, the wine grapes. So I don't know if you like playing stock markets, maybe something to do with wine. You know, it's funny how when there's a catastrophic disaster and supply goes down, prices go up. The people who are still in the game make money. Fox sued by Muhammad Ali Enterprises for $30 million using his name and likeness without his permission. Muhammad Ali, truly badass human being. There's the scopes. I know you're all just waiting for me to read those. I'm going to get into them in a bit. Kind of a funny little political cartoon there, too, from the local guys. The Town Square Tavern shut down. What's it say? There's so many great memories that I don't remember. About sums it up. I was actually at the Town Square Tavern for the last night ever, the last live music show there, where the Canyon Kids rocked the house. What did they close out with? What was their encore song? It was, you know, this is like a kind of jam band, fun band, but what did they close out with? Rage Against the Machine's Killing in the Name of. Rally around the family with a pocket full of shells, my friend. Moving on to this whole Weinstein thing in Hollywood. Angelina Jolie and Gwyneth Paltrow join in the Weinstein allegations. Okay, they're not really allegations. This guy's a creep. I've got friends who are actresses in Hollywood, and they assure me that the casting couch is a real phenomenon. Basically, you want the part, you got to get down sexually with the top dogs. It's sad. It's disturbing. It's disgusting. Again, we got a serious problem with perverts and pedophiles in the halls of power. The PPP. Perverts, pedophiles, power. They all seem to go hand in hand. Interestingly, you know, these people who are pedophiles, they're very easy to control because they're controlled personally on like a personal and spiritual level by these disgusting urges that they act on. And then they're also controllable externally because people got dirt on them, right? So anyway, Weinstein just one of many. It's interesting to see, though, that he's going down. What's going up with this Hollywood shakedown? Hopefully, all of these creepy, power-hungry perverts consume one another. Wouldn't that be lovely? Let's see, what do we got in here? Oh, I've missed a couple of my economic moves, so I'll go back to that. But interestingly, on this Weinstein thing, I got another fascinating article here from the New York Times brought up. New York Times hypocrisy exposed. Former reporter says the paper killed her Weinstein expose in 2004. Okay, this guy's been getting away with the same shady shit for another 13 years when an article was written in 2004 exposing him, but the editors at the paper killed it. After it publicized former Fox News host Bill O'Reilly's history of harassing female colleagues earlier this year, prompting Fox to dismiss the longtime primetime host, the New York Times claimed the scalp of another powerful media titan last week when it published a bombshell story exposing Harvey Weinstein's lurid history of sexual harassment and coercion. By the way, they should have included the word rape in there because he's got several people accusing him of rape as well. After the story was published, Weinstein's career crumbled as he quickly became a persona non grata in an industry that he had dominated for nearly 30 years. Lawyers and advisors denounced him, politicians returned campaign contributions, humanitarian rewards were rescinded, and the legendary producer was fired from his own company. But while the Times gloated over its latest triumph of holding the powerful to account, one former New York Times reporter revealed that America's paper of record had, for more than a decade, helped shield Weinstein, going so far as to kill her story about Weinstein's history of paying off women who he'd sexually harassed. Sharon Waxman, the founding editor of The Wrap and formerly an entertainment industry reporter at The Times, revealed in a blog post published Sunday that she had reported on a similar story back in 2004, only for it to be quashed by top editors at the paper, who, instead of encouraging her to pursue the story, questions its value and relevance after Weinstein had reportedly made a personal appeal demanding that it not be run. So there's your New York Times for you. You know, there's another funny article or another funny video exposing how crooked and corrupt the mainstream media is, coming from Project Veritas. Project Veritas, if you're not familiar with their videos, they'll go out there with hidden cameras, and in this instance, they went after Nick Dudich. Let's see, what's his job there? In the latest of a series of undercover operations targeting mainstream media bias, James O'Keefe has just dropped a new undercover video which takes direct aim at the New York Times audience strategy editor, Nick Dudich, who admits repeatedly to promoting content that intentionally seeks to, among other things, damage President Trump's businesses as a means towards forcing his resignation. Okay, this video pretty shocking. It's funny, this Dudich guy is a liar too. There's a female interviewing him, and it looks like they're at some conference. She's kind of stringing him along, making him feel good about himself, and he starts telling her all this crazy shit, like that James Comey is his godfather and that he worked for the FBI while infiltrating Antifa, right? He's trying to make himself out like he's some top secret agent guy who's heavily politically connected. He might be, but Project Veritas goes so far as to interview his aunt and his father, who do not confirm his story about working for the FBI or being the godson of former FBI Director James Comey, fired by Trumpo. But important to note that this guy, this Dudich guy, worked for both the 2008-2012 Obama campaigns, and then he volunteered in the Clinton campaign of 2016. Pretty high-level positions there. Now he's one of the top dogs of online video content at the New York Times, and he's a liar, and I'm sure he's looking for another job right now because the New York Times probably isn't going to keep him around. Moving along, there's a really nice choice little quote here. I'm going to butcher this name. We Exhibit Unites NYC. A quote from We, basically some of his art's going up around town. A global trend is trying to separate us by color, race, religion, and nationality. It is a blow against freedom, against humanity, IE said at a Manhattan press conference Tuesday. That's why I made artwork related to this issue. It's absolutely true. A global trend trying to separate us based on color, race, religion, nationality. I would include, sexual orientation and our financial status or class, classism, class war. Very real. In fact, the roots of the 60s race and class riots are still with us today. Why? Because so many people are poor and systemic racism is real. And no real meaningful actions have been taken to pull people out of poverty or address the serious issues. So let's see, I'm going to close out these windows. Back to financial news real quick, then we're going to get into some more good news. The Equifax hack just keeps getting worse. In addition to losing 145.5 million consumers' social security numbers and other things, Equifax neglected to mention that they also lost all the driver's license and address, date of birth, physical address, physical features of people based on their driver's licenses. They lost 10.9 million consumers' driver's licenses. So if some hackers got your social security number, your driver's license, your physical description, your home address, and who knows what else they got from Equifax, well, they can pretty much steal your identity, right? Same thing in the UK. Equifax admitting finally that 15.2 million UK accounts were accessed in the cyber breach as well. That's coming from CNBC. Strangely, Equifax stock prices have not dropped to zero. I don't know. Another little bit of financial news. Putin and Russia central bank come down hard against Bitcoin. Bitcoin investors were hit Tuesday by a double whammy of worrisome news from Russia, where President Vladimir Putin denounced the cryptocurrency as risky and used by criminals. And the country's central bank said it would support moves to block websites dealing in Bitcoin and other virtual currencies. The use of cryptocurrencies bears serious risks, which include money laundering, tax evasion, and terrorism funding, Putin said at a conference in Sochi, Russia, according to Bloomberg News. Putin called for more regulations and said Russia should look to other nations in developing rules. He warned, though, that it's also important not to put up too many barriers. Okay, so Putin not necessarily banning Bitcoin like the Chinese attempted to do. And interestingly, that news out of Russia does not seem to be affecting the prices at all. Bitcoin, well, it was up 1%. Now it's down 1%. A lot of volatility. But it's still hovering near all-time record highs at $4,838 per Bitcoin. A lot of these cryptocurrencies, there are literally hundreds of them, are doing just fine. A little bit of good news there. This is kind of cool. Vermont University dedicates housing to healthy lifestyle. Burlington, Vermont, the UVM, very progressive school. Pledges by college students to eschew drugs and alcohol are old hat. Now they're meditating, working out, practicing yoga, eating healthily, and, at least at the University of Vermont, turning it all into a bona fide lifestyle. In UVM's wellness environment, students live in a new, big, substance-free dorm, take a required class in what affects the health of their brains and bodies, and are given incentives to stay healthy, such as access to a free gym membership, nutrition and fitness coaches, and an app that tracks their activities. So that's pretty cool. It's good to see a college finally taking, the wellness movement seriously. The famous phenomenon, you move away from home, you go to college, you pile on the freshman 15, right? For a lot of people, college is just all about slacking off, partying, and going deep into debt while learning things that aren't really going to take you too far in the real world. So cool to see that UVM's kind of leading the charge there, trying to get the millennials healthy. On a similar vein, I was bashing on USA Today earlier, but they actually have a pretty good article that came out today. Why we're exhausted. Stress and social media are taking their toll. Exhaustion, weariness, fatigue, whichever phrase you prefer, recurring tiredness seems to be the new normal for a growing number of people, regardless of their age or background. Causes range from illnesses such as anemia, depression, hypothyroidism, diabetes, and heart disease to the increasing overuse of technologies and its implications on our mental well-being. Yes, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram can wear you out, says Dr. Patricia Bratt, a therapist and psychoanalyst with offices in Livingston and New York City. Social media can run the gamut from being fabulously uplifting to being totally depressing and exhausting, says Bratt, who is also the director of trauma and resilience studies at the Livingston, New Jersey-based Academy of Clinical and Applied Psychoanalysis. And this, her findings on social media, applies to all ages. Bratt works with young adults who check their social media constantly at all hours of the day and night. And then they all complain about being tired. It impacts their sense of themselves and their identities and makes them anxious, she says. Social media has created a new sense of impulsivity and urgency. It can make them feel overwhelmed by what is happening in the world, and all of these factors can be fatiguing and can impact how they sleep. Sleep apnea and poor diet are other common culprits of fatigue, and then there is the most obvious cause of all, not enough sleep, which often goes hand in hand with overwork. You know, stress will kill your ass. Can't stress that enough. In July, a survey conducted by the National Safety Council found that, this is disturbing, listen to this. In July, a survey conducted by the National Safety Council found that 97% of Americans, Maisha, come here, have at least one of the leading risk factors for fatigue, which include working at night or in the early morning, working long shifts without breaks, and working more than 50 hours per week. So 97% of Americans have at least one of the leading risk factors for fatigue. 43% of respondents said they do not get enough sleep to think clearly at work, make informed decisions, and be pre-productive. 43% of Americans cited. Yeah, USA Today throwing down some rather disturbing statistics. Moving on, scrolling through a bit. And what about fatigued folks who don't have sleep apnea, vitamin deficiencies, or diet problems, but do have sleepless nights and lack of energy during the day? We're living in a very complex society, says Dr. Carlos Rueda, chairman of Behavioral Health Services at St. Joseph's Healthcare System in Paterson, New Jersey. And this causes all kinds of problems. We are dealing with perceived threats from everywhere, economic uncertainty, and we are in a constant state of fight or flight. And of course, people are constantly receiving stimuli from their computers and their phones. You need this if you want to stay competitive, but this is also creating constant stress that disrupts sleep and disrupts your circadian rhythm, says Carlos Rueda, chairman of Behavioral Health Sciences at St. Joseph's Healthcare System in Paterson, New Jersey. Dealing with these stresses, Rueda says, requires time management skills and relearning how to relax. Set a time, say 8 or 9 p.m., when you turn off your computer and TV screens. He suggests, we aren't supposed to be receiving and processing information 24/7. Stop. Take a pause. You want to sleep better? Go sit under a tree and read a book. Can't stress it enough. Technology is truly killing us. If you don't believe me, I got the studies to back it up. You know, USA Today is not going to give you the rest of the story, but the electromagnetic fields generated by all of our technology disrupts our circadian rhythms. Can't stress it enough. That's why I spend so much time hanging out in the woods. Probably going to vanish again and not be doing these videos for a while, just because I have a tendency to not sleep very well when I'm surrounded by technology. But I'll tell you one thing, I go out in the woods, I get off the grid, so to speak, I sleep like a baby, and I have beautiful dreams. You know, remember how it used to be like, oh, if you hear voices in your head, you're crazy. You hear voices in your head, you're crazy. I don't hear voices in my head, but I do hear this constant annoying ringing in my ears when I'm surrounded by technology. So all of you, get up, get out, and get something. Let's get into the scopes. I kind of want to grab my little dog, though. Meister, come here. Come here. She's being shy. Figured we could get some more viewers with a little cuteness here, but she's a shy little dog. Thank you for all the comments. David, what's up, man? Thanks for tuning in. Everybody, what's up? Jason Eisenhart, yeah, The Body Electric. The Body Electric. That's a great book. Check it out. Can't stress it enough. Well, for anybody that doesn't want the scopes, I'll sign off for you here, but now I'm getting into them. Again, I'm no astrologer. I don't put too much stock in this, but it's in the paper, and I read the whole paper so I can distill it to you. I realize that making a 55, it's going to be an hour-long video, might not necessarily I don't know, might not necessarily decrease the amount of time you spend reading the paper, but I sure enjoy hanging out here with all of you, and you tuning in gives me a reason to stay informed. So thank you for that. Moving on to the scopes. Aries, 4-star day. You are likely to put up a fight in order to get your way. You will refuse to acknowledge someone else's stalling technique and its impact on you. Your intuitive senses and your energy guide you. You will achieve what you want for the most part. Tonight, happiest among friends. Taurus, that's me, the bull in the china shop, 4-star day. Don't be too demanding about what you want. Otherwise, you could hit a problem. You might have a difference of opinion with a key person over a money matter. Your creativity and cleverness will need to be called upon to get through a hassle. Tonight, hang with loved ones. That could be the letter from the IRS I got yesterday. That's going to necessitate my creativity and cleverness. Gemini, 3-star day. You could have a bout of insecurity which might get the best of you. How much of this emotional swing comes from within or from a situation involving a friend will be difficult to determine. One of your ideas will be worth pursuing. Tonight, Gemini, follow your instincts. Cancer, 5-star day. You can follow your intuition. You will come out ahead. If you follow your intuition, you will come out ahead. Your mind leads you down a path of new concepts, and you'll be able to strip away self-imposed mental barriers. You'll see life from a renewed perspective as a result. Your creativity soars. Tonight, whatever feels good. Leo, 3-star day. You sense that much is happening behind the scenes. You could feel as if you have run into a wall. Ask the right person for information and you'll be okay. Someone creative might make a suggestion that feels right and brings forth the information you desire. Tonight, Leos, you wicked, wicked lions, go for mystery. Virgo, 4-star day. You intuitively know when to put up a fight in order to achieve a goal or desire. Don't allow anyone in your inner circle to cramp your lifestyle. Your intuition is likely to point you in the correct direction. Honor your instincts. Tonight, check in with an older relative. Libra, 3-star day. Don't allow a tense situation to go too far, or else you could lose control. Remain secure and confident. Refuse to let your anger get the best of you and make a point of scheduling a relaxing break for yourself as soon as possible. Tonight, respond to a loved one's overture. Scorpios, 5-star days. Reach out for new information before your imagination fills in the gaps. In the long run, you will be a lot happier. An angry friend or coworker could cause quite a ruckus. You know when to back off. Be clear about where you are coming from. Tonight, let romance guide you. Sagittarius, 3-star day. You could feel pressured and a little overwhelmed by various situations. In any case, an authority figure or someone else you deal with on a daily basis might cause you some frustration or vice versa. Pull back and consider how this person feels. Tonight, be open to change, Sagittarians. Capricorn, 4-star day. A partner or associate seem to feel rather strongly about a key matter. You could get in quite a tizzy trying to understand each other and figure out what the other party means. Your imagination takes you in a new direction. Trust your instincts. Tonight, where you want to be. Aquarius, 5-star day for you Aquarians. One-on-one relating will be important when dealing with work associates. You understand the meaning of a friendship and the power and mental stimulation that you give each other. Do not push too hard to have your way. Go with the flow, Aquarians. Tonight, work late if need be. And Pisces, you fish people, it's a 4-star day. You could see a dramatic change occur between you and others. Give permission to your imagination to express some of its better ideas. You have a sense of what you want to do, and you also have an intuitive sense of what others' responses will be. Tonight, take the night off. And born today, entrepreneur Harry J. Hines, the maker of Heinz Ketchup. Wow. Excitement, excitement. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in. JT Jones asking, is there ever a 1 or 2-star day? You'll get 2-star days eventually, once in a while, but I don't know. Like I said, I don't put too much stock in it. I might stop reading the scopes eventually, but, you know, for a while there, a lot of people seemed to really like them, so I started reading them. Thank you all for tuning in. It's your boy Mog. This is Wake Up Wyoming. Once again, just in case you forgot, it is October 11th, 2017. Taking a good look at the mainstream, shredding it to get our campfire going later tonight. Once again, stay active, stay optimistic, stay aware, take care of yourselves and the people you love, and I promise I will try to do the same. We're all in this together. We got this. I appreciate all of you tuning in very, very much. Thanks for your likes. Thanks for your shares. Thanks for your comments. If you find a story you think I might be interested, please, by all means, share it with me. If you want to be friends on Facebook, just add me. And like I said, if you need someone to talk to, hit me up. You know, I might be out in the woods playing around. I might be out camping, but I'll try to get back to you. And, you know, like I said, without all of you, I'd just be a guy sitting here in his office talking to himself. So I'm grateful. Love you all. I'm going to go get outside, get away from this technology after spending about 6 hours on it so far today, trying to figure out what the heck is going on in the world. Once again, the mainstream media is designed to distract us. It's designed to divide us. It's designed to depress us. It's designed to, I don't know, throw in some other duh words. And that's what it's designed to do. So don't let it get you down. Stay up. And I'm out. Y'all take care. One love. Peace.